5. H.L. Hunley. The H.L. Hunley was a Confederate submarine run by an 8-person crew. It was built out of 40 feet, 12 meters of pure bulletproof iron. But despite its reputation, it was a hazardous vehicle to be in. Even so, it made history after becoming the first submarine ever to sink an enemy vessel. The sub sank about 3 times in just 8 months of service during the Civil War, from July 1863 to February 1864, killing over 30 men, including its creator. Marine and military historians have long been fascinated by the ship's fatal sinking, which happened immediately after it fired a torpedo into the USS Housatonic, a Union cruiser. Hunley was found on the ocean floor in 1995, over 130 years after it initially went down. It was brought to the surface 5 years later. All 8 crew members were still unsettlingly seated within the sub, gathered around a massive crank that ran along its center. A few theories speculate on why the ship sank and why the crew didn't try to escape. Additional information has been uncovered by researchers. The crew of the Hunley should have been able to leave with the help of a concealed device in the keel, but it was never used. This implies that whatever sank the sub must have not been spotted. Michael Scafuri has spent 18 years researching this strange historical event. His team of experts discovered that the emergency levers were locked in place after removing layers and layers of corrosion, silt, and shells from the sub. More proof that there wasn't much fear on board at the time of the sinking. The levers would have lifted the submarine to the surface and let the crew swim to safety by releasing 1,000 pounds, 454 kilograms of keel blocks. 2 theories stand out. Either the crew was unaware of danger, or they did not anticipate a need to surface immediately. The Hunley was small. It was so tiny that the soldiers weren't able to stand straight up inside. But regardless of its size, the crew still made no attempt to leave. That's why Duke University researchers believe that they more than likely died extremely quickly, quite possibly from the explosion of the submarine's own torpedo. According to a doctoral student named Rachel Lance, the pressure wave from the explosion was transported inside the submarine. She added that the blast was big enough to kill the whole crew. In 2017, experts built a scale replica of the sub and detonated it in a pond. They were able to confirm this long-held theory by measuring the forces. Regardless of these developments, Scafuri thinks it will still be some time before they can confidently say what went down within the submarine. He said that he definitely wants to get to that point, but he doesn't know for sure if it will be achievable. For the time being, scientists are concentrating on excavation, eliminating corrosion and underwater debris that have accumulated while spending decades on the ocean floor. They learn more about the ship and crew at each step, from the men's faces to a lucky gold token found in the captain's pocket. 4. Time capsule. After more than a year of protest and legal battles, workmen in Richmond, Virginia demolished a 19th century monument to Robert E. Lee. It was the last of 6 controversial Confederate memorials removed from the city's Monument Avenue. The statue's pedestal contained a time capsule dated 1887. After 5 hours of meticulous labor by specialists in historic preservation, the lead box was opened to expose an unusual collection of objects. According to the Associated Press, objects inside the 134-year-old capsule included a British silver coin, an 1875 almanac, books, and a fabric envelope. A letter and picture of James Netherwood, a stonemason who worked on the monument, were also discovered. The relics were placed in a freezer to stop further deterioration after getting water damaged from moisture within the box. The capsule was found within the 1,500-pound, 680-kilogram granite block that was 20 feet, 6 meters up in the pedestal's tower. Even though its contents don't have much historical significance, and the capsule was not one experts had been hoping to find, Virginia Governor Ralph Northam called the occasion an important day for the history of Richmond and Virginia. Newspaper articles from 1887 claim that a box buried beneath the statue of Lee contained a photograph of Abraham Lincoln in his casket, but no such image was found after excavation. Records from the Library of Virginia also show that nearly 60 items were submitted to a time capsule by 37 Richmond people, organizations, and corporations. But this one has considerably fewer relics. At the base of the Lee Monument, workers tried to find the capsule, but the attempt was labeled a lost cause. The other capsule was found higher up on the monument as a result of recent efforts, but the one mentioned in historical documents is still at large. According to the Times, Julie Langan, head of the Virginia Department of Historic Resources, said, "The question remains. Well, what happened to that one?" Aside from the alleged Lincoln portrait, the new capsule raises a number of fascinating questions. Why was a British penny placed within the box? And why was there a copy of Collinson Pierpont Edwards Burgwin's novel The Huguenot Lovers, A Tale of Old Dominion inside? According to Langan, we have not made sense of why this assortment was placed in the box. State authorities intend to replace the 19th century capsule with a new one containing items pertinent to the present day, like masks, vaccination certificates, and a Black Lives Matter sticker, according to Michelle Stoddard from ABC News. In a September statement, Governor Northam claimed that this monument and time capsule represented Virginia in 1890. In order for our public places to more accurately represent who we are in 2021, it is time to remove both. Have you ever made a time capsule? What did you put inside? Let us know in the comments and be sure to subscribe. 3. Civil War Headstone. A Civil War soldier's headstone found by archaeologists in Delaware may be the key to finding a long-lost African-American cemetery. A gravestone with the name C.S. Hall and the information Co. K. 32nd USCT was uncovered by experts working on a site near Frankfort, Sussex County. According to Delaware's Division of Historical and Cultural Affairs, this relates to Company K of the infamous 32nd U.S. Colored Troops. It served as a designation for brave African-American soldiers. While working under the supervision of the Delaware State Historic Preservation Office, archaeologists discovered at least 9 more burials at the site. The location was also once known as the Orr property, or Hall Plantation. There is no information on the individuals buried here, and experts have not yet been able to link the headstone to one particular burial. According to authorities, the area's residents are aware that the site contains the remains of African Americans who used to live there. For the neighborhood and all residents of Delaware who cherish and appreciate the state's rich heritage, the discovery of this cemetery is noteworthy. According to Tim Slavin, head of the Division of Historical and Cultural Affairs, they wish to uncover more about the deceased. Their goal is to appropriately remember these individuals. Slavin commended nearby residents who made the cemetery's existence known. He said that the discovery of these tombs depended heavily on memories and local knowledge of the spot and its surroundings. The discovery of slave remains at the site has not yet been confirmed, but the discovery of the Civil War soldier's grave marker sheds light on the lives of people buried here. 2. Soldiers' remains. At Virginia's Manassas National Battlefield Park, a surgeon's burial pit holding the remains of 2 Civil War soldiers was discovered. The professional excavation and analysis of a surgeon's hole in a Civil War battlefield is a first in human history. Additionally, it's the first time a burial pit for amputated limbs has contained deceased Civil War troops. The National Park Service made the finding in 2014. In order to dig the site, authorities collaborated with forensic anthropologists from the Smithsonian Museum of Natural History. The excavated pit also included 11 severed limbs and the remains of soldiers, proving that it had once been a field hospital. The full bodies belonged to 2 Caucasian men who died at the Second Manassas Battle and were between 25 and 34 years old. On July 21, 1861, Manassas's first battle took place. A second occurred between August 28 and August 30, 1862. Confederate forces won both times. Union forces called the conflict the First and Second Battles of Bull Run. One soldier was discovered with an Enfield bullet inside his femur. 3 discharged lead buckshots were found in another soldier. Both wounds were likely deemed too serious for effective surgery by a field doctor. Considering that the Confederate Army used Enfield rounds at the Second Battle of Manassas, experts think the soldiers were most likely from the Union Army. The bones of a man who died from buckshot were also near buttons from a Union jacket. According to forensic anthropologists' isotope analysis, the males drank and ate food from the Northeast, while their bones were still forming. In 2018, the soldiers were buried at Arlington National Cemetery in coffins made out of trees from the battlefield. The burials will mark the beginning of the cemetery's Millennium expansion, which aims to increase the number of burial places on the property by about 30,000. 1. Image of Confederate housekeeper. Mary O'Melia immigrated to America as a young woman with 3 kids before becoming a housekeeper at the Confederacy's White House. She's been both a witness to history and a mystery. That is, until 2014, when a woman with a unique Irish accent got in contact with the American Civil War Museum. The housekeeper, the woman claimed, was related to her deceased husband, and she had O'Melia's necklace from the Confederate First Lady Varina Davis. Kathy Wright, curator of the Civil War Museum, stated, "What really took my breath away is that she said she had a photograph of Mary." Wright added that it has been almost 150 years since Mary left the White House, and it is amazing that anyone is even able to see her face. The photograph portrays a woman who left her children in Baltimore to supervise the Confederate White House during the Civil War. She publicly shared nothing of her experience. O'Melia was one of the First Lady's close confidants and may have been in the home when President Abraham Lincoln arrived after Confederate forces left the city burning. On that issue, historical records aren't fully conclusive. Still, the finding is significant since the museum, which is close to the White House, has tried to put together the forgotten stories of African American slaves, free people of color, and European immigrants who served the Davis family. Mary O'Melia was one of the most elusive among them. Her name is also an enigma. It's been spelled O'Melia, O'Malley, and even O'Malla over the years. She was born Mary Larkin on April 7, 1822, in Galway, Western Ireland. She received her education in a convent, and it seems that the excellent needlework the nuns' order taught her may have had an impact on Varina Davis's decision to hire the young woman. She married Matthias O'Melia, a ship captain, but at 25 years old, he drowned at sea, leaving her a widow. Mary arrived in Baltimore in 1850, but the details of her travels are unknown. In 1861, she left her children with relatives and traveled to Richmond to visit some friends. It was there that she became stranded once Virginia seceded from the Union. She pleaded with the Roman Catholic bishop to intervene on her behalf after hearing that Varina Davis could help her get back up north. Despite O'Melia's isolation from her kids, Davis eventually persuaded her to become a housekeeper and companion to the First Lady. Despite her position in the Confederate capital, O'Melia left few written records of her time in Richmond. She left it up to others to make assumptions. One reporter even did so after she passed away, describing all the historic exchanges she would have witnessed. O'Melia stayed to maintain the home when the original family left Richmond in April 1865. President Jefferson Davis wrote to his family from Danville a few days after, saying, "Mrs. O'Melia behaved just as you described her, but seemed anxious to serve and promised to take care of everything, which may mean some things." A more convincing sign of O'Melia's ties to the Confederacy's first family was her communication with the Davis family after they fled, as well as a wedding she and Varina Davis attended in 1867. They were the only white guests at Ellen Barnes' wedding who had once worked in the White House. O'Melia attended a memorial for Jefferson Davis in Baltimore after his death in 1889. She drew much attention, according to a reporter, and was characterized as a well-preserved old lady. Wright even said O'Melia's narrative speaks to her because she considers herself as the modern housekeeper for the Confederacy's White House. After working in the White House for years, O'Melia eventually moved away to Baltimore, where she ran several boarding houses. In 1907, she died. That's all for now. Do you have any personal favorite Civil War discoveries? Let us know. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe.